Hello, this is Christy Strauss with Wonderful, Weird, and Horrifying. Thank you for tuning in again. This is the A of the A to Z horror, favorite horrors. I don't really know if I've coined it yet. Doesn't necessarily have to be horror, could be horror sci-fi, just could be weird, you know. And so I'm just going through and talking about my favorite ones. So let's go with A. So A's kind of a bitch. And I mean that with love. I just mean that I had a hard time only selecting a couple to talk about because there are a lot of good films that start with A. So just to, kick it off, I'm gonna have to go with Alien and Aliens because not. So obviously the first is 1979, Ridley Scott, and then obviously James Cameron's 1986. But who doesn't love xenomorphs, right? I mean, they're just such delightful creatures. And who doesn't love Sigourney Weaver kicking ass, um, calling them a bitch, and as well as they come out at night mostly. I could keep going with quotes, but it's just they're both wonderful. A lot of people actually argue that this isn't horror, that it is sci-fi, and I'm not going to get into that. I think it's both, but also some argue that the second is better than the first. I love them each. I might say that the first just has like a little more for me than the second, and that's primarily, I mean, there's such a great cast in both, but I just love that the setting in the first, that it is on the ship, and it's just that opening entry into the franchise, you might say. So a fan. So I thought I had my Alien Funko, but I don't. Not that I'm going to be delighting this with visual aids or anything like that. So my next one is Nightmare on Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven, 1984. Though, I could actually say Nightmare Before Christmas, even though that's not horror. It's just kind of weird, but that's tangent. So, I experienced Freddy Krueger from a very young age and was just, mesmerized by how kind he is as well. No, it's just, Wes Craven's film is obviously iconic for so many reasons. And it's just, I think it taps into that fear of, what can happen when you're sleeping in that place that you feel often safe. And that's actually what usually when I've been asked the question is who's better, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. I always go with my man Krueger, mostly because of that element. And, even though I actually will argue that Halloween's a better film. But that's another thing. But I do think that Nightmare on Elm Street has to be mentioned. And I just think it's one of the best in what it does, which is be scary and also kind of hilarious and very 80s. So moving on, American Wolf in London, 1981, John Landis, also fun, funny, campy, wonderful little werewolf film, not that most people would, but not to be confused with American Werewolf in Paris, which does have a pretty amazing transformation sequence to a Bush song, to mouth. Anyway, but American Werewolf in London is hard and almost impossible not to mention it in the conversation because it's also one of the best, and it's other than The Howling early on, one of my favorite werewolves of films of that time. So go you. And I'm going to finish up with a 2000 American Psycho, Mary Herron's film, with my boy Patrick Bateman, because he's just the friend that everyone should have. He's a narcissist, psychotic, he's just trying to return some videotapes. He's super hip, very, very dedicated to his skincare regimen. But, that's just, wonderful satire, horror, with some hilarious sequences that are just ingrained into you forever. And yeah, it's a terrific film. It's still holds up, in my opinion. And oh man, just to throw a couple things out, Arrival is a terrific film if you have not seen that. As well as, I mean, Annihilation is definitely not my favorite Alex Garland film, but since his name starts with A and the film starts with A, I'll throw it out there because it's at least worth a watch. But watch Ex Machina if you have not seen any of his work. So that's it. That's A. I feel like I rambled a bit and I feel like I still could have others to talk about, but just to give you a little slice of that. So thank you very much for tuning in. I always appreciate it. Feel free to tell me any of your picks if you agree, disagree, just want to say hi. And, as always, I really appreciate it. It means everything. And keep watching and stay weird because I will.